Are you ready, Arizona? Because if you've watched the news lately, you deserve either a medal or a therapist. Welcome to Shaping Arizona, the political podcast where we actually solve problems instead of just yelling at them on Facebook. You have a great host, Ken Miceli, your potential next governor. And let me tell you, this is not your typical show. No boring speeches, no awkward handshakes. And on this show, we're talking about the real Arizona issues, the border, the economy, public safety, education, and why your grocery bill now looks like a payment for a Ferrari. And the best part, Ken has an amazing panel of guests. They're smart, fearless, funny enough that even politics might become watchable again. This is grassroots leadership with grit, humor, and a plan to bring Arizona roaring back. So grab your coffee, grab your popcorn, and maybe hide your wallet from inflation. Because we're not talking about Arizona's future, we're building it. Now, live from the campaign studio, it's Ken Miceli.
Hello, Arizonans. My name is Ken Miceli, and I'm running to be your next governor for the great state of Arizona. Tonight is our new podcast called Shaping Arizona. It's on every week, 8 o'clock on Wednesdays. Be there. Okay, so tonight we have a panel of great Republican guests, and I'm excited to introduce you to them right now. First, we'll start with Gary. Gary, say hello and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Ken, and I thank you for inviting me to participate with this panel tonight. I was looking forward to it all day. My name is Gary Nicolau. I've been a resident here in Arizona going on 30 years. I consider myself a reformed Californian, where I moved from, but I grew up there in the Central Valley of California, which was similar in climate to Arizona here, so it wasn't much of an adjustment. But I've been involved in the insurance world as an insurance benefits broker for going on 40 years, 40 plus. So I've been through a lot of things in the industry, especially here in Arizona, the last 30 years and the last 15 years ever since Obamacare passed. And I work with individuals on the marketplace exchanges. I work with people that are on Medicare or aging into Medicare. And I work with a lot of small, mid-sized businesses with their employee benefit plans. So that's my business experience. I deal with business owners a lot, talk to them, different industries, different places, and I understand the challenges that they have running their businesses and hiring employees and keeping employees and controlling costs and various things. So it's a challenging industry, but I enjoy what I do.
Well, for 40 years, you have a lot of credibility, Gary. In fact, we need you to fix our Arizona health care.
I'll see what I can do here.
There you go.
Great.
Well, thank you. And you'll be back with that subject, I'm sure. So next, we have John. John, introduce yourself.
I'm John Losin. Thank you so much, Ken, for asking me to join tonight. Had a great time last time we got together and did this. I'm semi-retired producer, engineer, music producer. My career path has taken me into business consulting and private equity finance. And currently, I'm launching a tech company focused on AI consulting and development. For SMBs. So we look forward to that and assisting lots of small to mid-sized businesses here in Arizona, particularly Phoenix area and Scottsdale, and sort of integrating AI tools into the business model, not to replace the human element, but to reposition human element where it's more effective and, of course, assist companies in their revenue growth and extension of customer base. So privileged to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Oh, and I'm also a reformed Californian, maybe recovering Californian, but happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, you're more than welcome. And I certainly don't want to make a California into an Arizona. So we want to remain Arizona here.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Debbie. So glad you're here tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're more than
welcome.
welcome.
I was so excited. My friends Michael and Eddie invited me. And so I've been a resident here since 1987. came to U of A from Wisconsin and never went back to the cold. So, and we've actually, my husband and I, we've been together for 25 years. And we have actually been business owners. We had a retail business, luxury home and gift business in Old Town Scottsdale for 4 years during the 2008 adjustment, I call it.
Yes.
And so after that, we became big advocates for helping business owners either find money, save money, fund projects. So we have DM Business Advisors, which
Great.
we helped 400 businesses during COVID connect to the CPAs to get all their money that they were due for having W-2 employees and getting shut down, being restricted, having all kinds of tyranny. So we were really on the front line. So we know what's happening, and not only in Arizona, but nationally. We worked with people all over the country, but we're just very business focused to where we want to make sure that business owners are not getting, like kicked out of their places, their retail. And, there's just a lot of things. And even with the insurance, raising and things like that. So, we're just excited to see that somebody like yourself is coming to the game.
Yes. And it is a game. And by the way, I am not a politician. I'm a businessman and a humanitarian. And I can tell you this, that my approach is not going to be anything near a political approach. So with that, Daryl, say hi.
Hi, I'm Daryl Merrick.
Daryl, so glad to have you. And 25 years of marriage, you're hitting a
Yeah, well, pretty good. Yeah.
you're going pretty good.
So I work with her in DM Business Advisors, and I'm an AI guy too. So
Okay.
AI mad scientist.
Yeah, he was an AI scientist back in the 1990s.
Really?
Before
Yeah,
it
with
was
Lockheed.
cool. Yeah.
Right.
So he's building web apps and automation for CPA firms and some other businesses. So.
Yeah. But having the human in the loop, so you got to have people
Okay.
with it.
Well, this is certainly an AI group.
Yeah,
Okay.
exciting.
All right. Good to have everyone here. So thank you to all of you
Thank you.
for being here. And thank you out there for joining us tonight. This is another great show that we have planned for you. The first topic that we have planned is something that came up last night with Mr. Vance. He is taking over the Fraud, Abuse, and Wasteful Spending Division. And we have plans for that here. So with that being said, fraud, abuse, and waste in Arizona. Every day, millions of people, hardworking Americans, right here in Arizona, struggle to pay their bills, keep food on the table, and provide for their families. And yet, while good people are fighting just to make ends meet, we continue to see fraud, waste, and abuse spending drain away the very dollars that we work so hard for and earn. We've seen investigations from those who conducted by the watchdogs through the federal government, and they've uncovered fraud with even millions, if not billions, of dollars. So we will have a special task force here just to manage fraud, waste, and abuse. Money that will help communities will find, families and businesses, instead of coming in and lining up pockets of politicians. This needs to go back to the people. So, because too many of them are worried about donations and flowing and keeping their silence to politicians, then they're about protecting our tax dollars. And that ends the day I become governor. So with that, you can dive into that little subject and let's get it going. Fraud, abuse, and waste.
Well, I'll jump in to start because involved in the insurance business, one of the things I have to do is take fraud, waste, and abuse training every year to maintain my licenses and various things and requirements, actually every couple of years or so. And so I'm very up on that subject as it relates to the insurance business. And in regarding health insurance, life insurance, and various things where is fraud and waste, and there is too much of it out there. The Medicare system has a lot of it built into itself. The Medicaid system in Arizona with Access and other state Medicaid programs too. There's a high percentage of waste there that needs to be reined in. You've got abuse by unscrupulous providers that cause the problem sometimes. Just other people figure it out. We can look at what's been going on that's coming more and more public with what's happening with the Somali issue in Minnesota and places that is just unbelievable to fathom how much there is there. And when people figure out how to game the system, it gets even bigger and bigger. And we have to rein it in, not only in our state, but on a national basis too, obviously. And I think the current administration is working on steps to do that, and taking steps like having Vance be appointed there in a position to take charge of that. And I think there was a gentleman that President Trump nominated too that was going to do some hearings about being a deputy in the cabinet to that position too, to help. So it needs to be attacked. It needs to be looked at and reined in. And
well, most definitely. And I believe at this point, our governor, Katie Hobbs, she is under investigation. And it's ongoing, and it's several different issues. She is known as the veto queen, I guess. And also some people call her the master disaster. So I want to do the right thing for the state.
Yeah.
And I want your support, your input through the people, through our administration. We're going to do the right thing. John, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah. Great show last night, by the way.
Yeah, that was a great show.
So I was thinking about what you said and listening to Gary, very informative. You know, from my perspective, 2020 to 24, when we opened the border, I believe the American people were defrauded, and it was coming from the top levels. And, you know, tax dollars going to people who entered this country for the free ride and then to cause trouble. But, you know, not all of them. And, you know, I love my neighbor and I love people, but there's a way to do things that are legal. But the emphasis being on buying those votes from those people.
That's what it is.
And, you know, last night was an example of that when our glorious President Trump had just made the statement, as your priority, the American people, safety of the American people, and not illegals. And, you know, it seemed I was taken back because it was an eye-opening moment of the blatant disregard for the offices that those people hold and their constituents that pay their salary. And so since that time, 20 to 24, the systems have gotten so open and loose regarding federal dollars and state dollars because the people in charge of them blatantly didn't care. That's right. So, you know, I'm so happy to hear you address this issue to tighten it up. And I think AI has a place in that, because I think the systems need to be integrated, you know, and, you know, we look forward to how that's going to look. So it doesn't require all that pencil pushing of humans and human errors and erasers on pencils, but the humans can program the applications and the autonomous AI agents, if you will, that are going to be, you know, sort of regulating that system of federal dollars and state dollars. The thing that happened in Minnesota is just, it's almost unbelievable. And, you know, but I'm happy to hear President Trump saying that, you know, Vice President Vance is going to be on the case, and there are some regulators involved, you know, some committees. So I'm very happy to hear you say that. And I think at the end of the day, it really takes food out of the mouths of our kids.
Yes.
And services out of the mouths of our kids, as, you know, as exemplified by what's happening with the Leering Center, if you will. But, you know, there's other means of fraud that have been uncovered too. with elder abuse and homes that are set up for, hospices that are empty, taking all that money when people who are in a position where they need a hospice, they don't have the resource anymore because the money's been taken up. So, I'm looking forward to seeing that tightened up and interested to see how things go.
That's excellent, John. Well, thank you for that. And Daryl, I know that you're an AI guy. How can AI really help with before, during, and after monitoring the abuse?
I guess just a lot of like pattern matching. So like I say, if people know how to game the system, it just gets worse and worse. But then you start kind of seeing the patterns. Maybe someone gets away with it for a little while, and then you see like, well, this is beyond what should be allowed.
Sure. So is it held in separate accounts, ghost accounts? Where do you think the money's really going?
That I haven't looked into, but that becomes a bit more of a electronic forensic accounting kind of thing that you need to.
Okay. Electronic and forensic. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, good. Anything else on fraud, waste, and abuse?
Well, I'm really curious as to what your stance is on like the cartels, because I know Katie Hobbs has taken, direction from them and is allowed, and that's one of the reasons that the borders were open so wide during those 2 years, 22 to 24. And I'm just curious, like, what your plans are to work with the Border Patrol. And
Absolutely. Great point. Great question. Well, first of all, I'm going to take a hard stance. We are here for the people, not to open up borders, not to hide waste, fraud, and abuse. It's going to be a different Arizona where people are going to get treated fairly. So we have a plan. Our unit, our fraud unit, will be on top of this, and I'll be monitoring that as well. But like you say, the AI will be a part of that before, middle, and after. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to roll up our sleeves. It's something that everyone is really concerned with right now. If you take a look at the nation, $19 billion out of every state. That's got to be incredible. But hopefully that's not true. Nevertheless, I think Mr. Vance will monitor that and will be transparent as well. Okay. Gary, anything else on that?
Just in the immigration issue in general, it's an area that needs to be fixed and looked at both on a national and a state-by-state basis. And I think I'm very much pro-immigration if it's proper immigration and done correctly in the right way, not illegally and not bending the rules and favoring certain people and others. I mean, my grandparents all came from Greece 100 years ago. Came through Ellis Island. They left Greece, came over on the boat, got here, started a family, learned the language, educated their children, which became my parents and so forth. And I have a father-in-law that's here visiting with us right now, and he grew up in Greece as a young boy during the Nazi occupation in his village in Greece. He lived through, when he was 5-6 years old, he saw the atrocities that happened then. But then he sailed around the world in the merchant marine and then wound up being able to come here and learn the language, educated, got his citizenship, did it all properly, didn't ask for handouts, worked hard. And that's what a lot of people did. I mean, Italians, Greeks, Irish, so many nationalities you could say. So this country has always had open doors to the proper channels and ways.
Correct.
So it really fries me when I hear the other side claim that we're such a high, bad, racist country and we're this and we're that. And, it's just not true. And I respect all different nationalities. I appreciate the different nationalities. And when you get down to the bottom line, different nationalities, we're all family oriented mostly. We're all this, we share a lot of the same things. We should celebrate those differences and not make them issues to stand against each other and claim. So the racist thing just is overplayed,
Yeah.
and I think it's just that needs to end too.
Yes.
And if we're such a bad country, why do so many people want to come here still?
Yeah.
I can't understand that. That logic just isn't there. Right?
Yeah, and if you don't like it, you can leave.
Yeah, I mean,
Kevin O'Leary was interviewing someone, and I can't recall the news show, but this was recently, and she was saying how bad America was, and he said, "I'll pay you to leave. I'll buy you the plane ticket." Really, and he
Right.
was serious. My grandparents on my mother's side came from Sicily through Ellis Island, and my father came here when he was 3 with his parents through Ellis Island, and it was just the way things were done. Nobody thought of just breaking into the country. Well, 20 to 24, they didn't have to break in. They were invited in. But one more thing on the fraud, I can see this because maybe my business background in corporate law, not law, but consulting, but there's a lot of law involved. And, they form LLCs, during COVID, the NGOs were getting tons of money. And if you really look, you'll see that before Biden left office, the AutoPen signed a lot of checks to NGOs for millions. One, I won't name who, but it was $20 million. And poof, it goes in the wind. But they form subcorporations. So they form these LLCs, and then they transfer the money to another LLC that they own and another LLC, and the money gets trailed through. And then in the case of Minnesota, what they say, I don't know this for sure, but I trust what I'm hearing from our federal government, is a lot of that money went overseas. And it's funding terrorism, actually. But I think what President Trump said last night about it's the norm, fraud and abuse is the norm in some other countries. But here it was never the norm, but it's just become so easy for fraudsters to take that money and, have a car mechanic company that gets federal grants, and there's no lifts in there, no tools, no people. And it got to a point where I think the train just really left the station and it's just gone.
Yes.
It's a runaway train.
Yeah.
So it's going to take certainly some manpower and grit to catch it. Yeah.
I may interject on that point and what you expressed, how you helped with the ERC credits that were out there. And of course, there was the PPP stuff during COVID. The big argument has been the last couple of years coming out about all of the tax credits under the federal marketplaces on the exchanges for people on the individual market. Those credits have helped a lot of my clients, afford insurance, but there's been a lot of fraud and abuse there. And the problem is when there's not enough checks and balances to catch these things.
Amen.
And it makes us all look bad. I
Right.
pride myself on the work and how I do my business and help clients. But yet I do know of fraudulent people who have set up accounts, and the government made it too easy under the exchanges to get policy set up for people that didn't exist or didn't even know, and unscrupulous people and brokers, unfortunately, which makes the good ones look bad because
Right.
the bad ones
Yeah.
do such a good job of taking advantage of people and the government. And, here it is, a lot of waste and fraud and abuse there too. And yes, it's easy to blame only the insurance industry or only this or that, but there's multiple facets there that let this fraud go on for as long as it's gone on. And, checks and balances got to be brought into play.
Yeah.
Well, and
Checks and
also,
balances.
though the IRS used the fraud to hiatus the program, which hurt a lot of businesses all over Arizona and over America. And we're still fighting for people to get their COVID relief money. And here we are in 2026. So, and we have like even a law firm that we are working with out of Florida that is one of the biggest ERC attorneys in the nation. And there's no reason that, I don't know, maybe they lost some employees at the IRS or, what, but we haven't gotten any answers. And some of these businesses are literally like on a string, like holding on for survival. And so I understand that, yes, there was fraud, but when you have a payroll tax 941, I mean, it's pretty hard to, have that fraudulent. I mean, because there's so much documentation as a business that they have to provide. But on the PPP side, absolutely, that was crazy fraud. So the IRS used the PPP fraud to stop temporarily the ERC credits, which again, it just shows you the corruption that's happening at the federal level. And so, that's why, I mean, these tax credits from a lot of these programs, the thing we have a hard time with is that the regular CPAs, the generalists, they don't understand specialty tax programs. And so they actually a lot of times fought against some of these credits when they're just generalists. It'd be like going to a brain surgeon. If you are not going to a brain surgeon, if you have a brain aneurysm, you would go to a internal medicine doctor. No, you're going to a specialist.
Sure.
Same thing with the tax, programs. And so I just would like to see more education for business owners in the tax, because nobody knows. I mean, a lot of people don't know what their rights are, what they benefit from if they put it in, properly, because again, there is fraud, but I don't think that, because those fraud program, people over, play like the fraud. So you don't want to take away the people that really should get the information so that they can keep their business going.
And who would you say would process that information the best? Payroll services or the business owner itself?
I would say that the business owner needs to have a advisory board, just like, a lot of companies, they need those people on their board. They need like insurance experts. They need the AI experts. They need the right people more now than ever. They can't just work with one person. And so that's the part that I feel like people that are not abundant mindset, they will be trying to like, oh, I want to hold on to the old ways of doing things. And you can't do that. You want to be able to like, hey, you know what? We'll all work together, because we actually work with other people's CPAs. Like, we want them involved. We don't want to, we're not stealing their clients because we're only doing specific programs.
Sure. Your added value. Yes.
Exactly. So
Okay.
that, and if professionals aren't willing to do that, you should really question who you're working with.
Good.
Well, the bottom line there is things are just too complex.
Yeah.
Tax code, insurance code, everything is so convoluted that it's hard for anybody to keep up with it all and be an expert in everything. And I mean, they turned us insurance brokers helping people on the exchanges with individual into tax experts about the tax credits. And I would help clients, and they would talk to their CPAs or accountants or bookkeepers, and they had no clue as to how the credits work. I had to explain it to the tax professionals.
Right.
And it's like, I'm an insurance broker. I shouldn't have to be doing this. And they tell us in our training, you're not to give out tax advice. But yet the government, the way this was set up when the ACA was passed, known as Obamacare, they forced us to do that because the clients can't figure this out and they need somebody to guide. So I had no choice but to become educated to help advise clients as to how we go about this, and let's do it the right way. And here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. And, so forth. So it's, I can identify fully with what you're saying there, Debbie, because it is, everything's too complex.
Yeah. But again, having somebody like that's not a politician in these offices right now, I think is so important, because there's so many people like Pelosi and some of these people that have been in those positions for so long, and they came in making $200,000 and now they're like worth $30 million.
300 million.
300 mil. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You dropped a zero.
Okay.
There.
Sorry. I know. It just,
it's only
but
a zero.
that's the part that, why can't you run the government like you do a business? so that if you're not actually making money, it's like, well, where is all this going?
Like President Trump is doing, right?
Exactly.
Like he's running the country.
Well, politicians and bureaucrats write all the laws. We all have to live with them as just individual citizens with our own tax code, or with businesses and business owners. We have to live and deal with their laws. They don't live in the real world and the practical world of how much time and effort it takes to do these things. But it's like, not my problem, it's your problem. We make the rules. You guys figure out how to live with it and make it work. And that needs to end.
Elections have consequences.
Very true.
Absolutely.
As some of my old friends and family in New York are learning, elections have consequences. I just want to add one thing real quick. I thank you for sharing what you did. And when you were speaking, I'm thinking, small business today, there are so many moving parts. Not everybody has access to information, and knowledge is power, right? And sometimes it's not for lack of wanting the information, they just don't know how to get it. So I think it's wise to even think about some sort of coalition, maybe on a state level. It's good use of whatever funding, or even on a volunteer basis, of making sort of a coalition of these, bullet points in these things that small businesses need. And we're all familiar with what those bullet points are, right? The priority mindset, the accounting, the tax laws, and so forth. They keep track of the changes and then digitally feed them to the business owners. So at least they have access to information. That's
huge. Yeah.
Thinking about a solution to the problem that you were talking about.
Yeah, because I think that more people used to go to like the SBA for that kind of information, and then all of a sudden it just became like that's where you go to get your loan. But you don't really hear about the SBA as far as more advocacy. And maybe that's something that, could be beefed up.
I think it's very important, and it would be an asset for, the community as a whole.
Sure.
For entrepreneurs, small business people, where there's online retail, brick and mortar, to have access to some of that information and consistency in what they're all getting fed.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said. Information is the most valuable commodity that I know of.
Yeah.
And that's where AI will come in.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for that comment, Gary. That was really good. And your background from Greece, that's pretty impressive.
I'm a proud Greek American, but
Yeah.
American first.
Yes.
Greek is my nationality. I'm a second generation. My wife is that too. Second generation. Her mom was born here in the U.S., but her dad was from Greece. So, but all of us nationalities,
Right.
we all have stories, and histories. And
Is your
we need
wife,
to-
is that Vicky?
Vicky?
And
Yes.
your father-in-law, that's Frank?
Frank.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Well, hoopla, Frank. You need to come on the
now
show
I'm
here
hungry.
for us. In fact, all of you out there, we want you on this show. So call in, email us. We would love to see you and have you participate with this fine group. So anything else on that right now?
Oh, nothing. When you were saying about all the national, I was thinking we have Greek restaurant, Italian restaurant, we have Mexican restaurant. We have all kinds of restaurants because we do enjoy the cultures, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Diversity.
And I
We
do
just
enjoy
want
the
people
food.
to do it legally.
Absolutely.
I know.
Yeah.
Somalian food.
What?
Haven't been there yet.
Ethiopian. I know. So actually, on that note, I just want to one little thing that is something that we are actually working on bringing out in the next couple of weeks is there is a tax credit that restaurants and companies that had tax on tips. So we're able to go back as far as 2022.
Okay.
And that's going to be a big deal to save these restaurants because I'm part of the independent coalition of restaurants.
Okay.
And they're trying to get, from the federal level, they're trying to get support
Right.
for these independent restaurants, and they're not getting very far.
Save the businessman.
Yes. And so this could be the answer to prayer for your local restaurateur.
Okay.
So like I said, I mean, I would just, love to talk to anyone who, has a restaurant or a hotel or catering company or something like that, because it's going to be a big deal and you can get your money really fast, between 3 and 4 months.
That's fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like ERC where it's going to take
Months or years.
Months or years.
Yeah,
And
right.
my husband is actually doing all the AI technology to support all the document collection for the CPA that we're working with. So, and we will work with CPAs, if people need, support, we're, and even if people have, past tax, bills that they, they will work with people.
Oh, great. So your platform basically is it working strictly with CPAs or business owners or both?
Well, we work with the CPAs that do the tax work,
Okay.
but then from a referral partnership standpoint, we work with other CPAs or insurance people or pastors or, whoever advocates, just connectors that bring us clients.
Okay.
So,
But it's easier with the CPAs. They already have all the
Yeah.
documentation needed. They can put it
because
in the
it's
system.
pretty simple, but again, everything is, when people have to get their payroll reports and, things like that. But we make it pretty simplified because we have the AI enhanced system, automation system that we're working with. So, but again, we had, our retail business in Scottsdale. We lost our business in 2010. And so I'm very passionate about saving businesses.
Yes.
And I just want to
Save
make
the
sure
business, yeah.
that nobody has to go through like what we had to go through, because we took everything to like try to save, our business. And I, probably did 1,000 calls during COVID and all around the country. And I heard, all the stories and was crying on the phone, praying with people, doing all, and again, because of the impact of COVID and, the supply chains and all these things, it's like, there's still ramifications. Like there's still things happening in business right now. And I know that people, a lot of times they're in quiet desperation and they just think like, oh, I don't need help or I don't need that. It's like, but they're,
Yeah. We want them to stay.
we want them to
don't-
stay.
Yeah.
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 And so that's why, like I said, I'm excited about, what you are going to bring to the,
We want to
Stay.
bring it in a couple of ways. First, some good old fashioned hard work,
but
but I'm really a proponent of AI, and I think we can use that to our benefit. For example, in the elections coming up, and that's another topic that we'll discuss. But I would like to see AI involved in before, middle, and after. To really monitor who's out there. And we have a program, a plan already by using the Arizona card. Everyone will get an Arizona card. And this will make sure that you're legal. All you have to do is present the card. You can get it free from the state through the website. So that's one issue that we can resolve very quickly. Okay.
to make sure the dead people don't vote.
They don't vote.
Don't
and,
resurrect them.
how many times
Yeah.
can you vote when you're deceased?
Right. Exactly.
And all it takes is the will to make these things happen.
That's correct.
Right, Ken? And that's what hasn't happened, on a state level and on a national level.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned what you did, because I can think of a few of my independent restaurant clients that I have that could probably take advantage of what you just were talking
awesome.
about.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I could meet you.
Great. That'd be
both
great.
tonight.
Oh,
So-
thank you.
'cause it's all about helping people
It
help
is.
each other.
It
Yeah,
is.
so
And
we like to
Right?
collaborate.
It is.
with you.
It's just, because when we were doing Uber Eats the first week of the lockdowns in Phoenix, and I remember, just like it was yesterday, I walked in to pick up an order at a Paradise Valley restaurant. It was a pizza restaurant, and I looked around and I was like, "This is such a beautiful," I'm like, "This is such a beautiful restaurant." And the owner, he goes, "Yeah, it was," and it just broke me. Like it just, I could, and this was like a year before I even got the opportunity to do ERC. But I just knew that I was like, I can't, like, as a business owner myself, I can't sit back and watch this continual destruction of the, bricks and mortar mom and pop, business,
Yes.
because that's really our backbone.
It is the backbone.
And we don't want just these giant conglomerations taking over business, because people want that personal, local experience.
And we're all business people here. We all have an agenda that we have to complete every week. Unlike a politician, if we don't perform, we don't get paid.
Right.
Very true.
That's right.
That's it.
So,
Yeah.
again, I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman that wants to perform on each and every level so that we can give back to these communities, make them thrive, make them stay in business. So I would like to segue into another topic, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
I'd like to talk a little bit about our veterans, military,
Oh,
and
yes.
military enforcement, and our police as well. So I'd like to speak about that. They are the backbone of our veterans, our military, and the men and women in blue. We cannot have a strong state without structure. So we cannot have safe communities without law enforcement. And we cannot talk about freedom without honoring those who fought to protect it. So as governor, I want to restore respect, integrity, and support to our police. It will be a top priority. Law enforcement deserves leadership that we could watch their back, and leadership that believes in accountability, training, resources, and the rule of law. And our veterans were never meant to be forgotten. That's why we're launching a veteran container home center.
Oh,
Amen.
wow.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Not as a handout, but as a mission. A roof, a bed, an address, stability, dignity,
Oh, that's amazing.
and a purpose. This isn't charity. This is a second chapter. Because men and women who protected our overseas still have a role to play here in Arizona. So I want to give you a job. And these veterans will be hired, respected, and empowered, especially to protect our most precious thing, our children. My plan is to have them protect elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. Those veterans understand discipline. They understand responsibility. And when there's danger, they don't run out of there. They run towards the threat, right? This isn't politics. This is common sense. This is where our veterans, our military, and our police stand the line every day. I would not be standing here running for governor if they didn't protect us. So accept my purest commitment to the greatest gift that I've learned and have is our freedom. Our freedom with action, respect, and unwavering support. That's what you have from your next governor, me, Ken Miceli. You will not be sacrificed alone anymore. So if I'm elected governor, you will have 100% of my support today, tomorrow, and always. So with that, God bless our veterans. God bless our police. And God bless this great state of Arizona. So with that, please chime in at any time.
I don't think I could have said anything better
I
than
know,
what you
right?
have enunciated for all of us, Ken, because I wholeheartedly agree with your sentiment and the value and the gratitude I have for law enforcement and in that whether it's military, police, fire, all of the civil servants that are out there to protect our homes, our families, our businesses, and people in general. It's a thankless job.
It is a thankless job. And we had a fireman on one of our podcasts, and, he's the brother of the police, basically.
Yeah.
They work hard. They go into dangerous situations and carry out people to make sure they live. I mean, what a job, right? I respect that highly. And they have my support, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So thank you for that comment.
I have adoration and the utmost of respect for military, for police and fire. You know, imagine, I think about if I left my house in the morning not knowing if I would make it back. And that's every day they go where they go, particularly military if they're in active service. And, you know, they don't make it back. My father was in World War II. He was in the Navy. And, you know, he told me a lot of stories. A lot of his friends didn't make it back. And, you know, he was there during, you know, a really bad wartime. And, you know, so whenever I see a veteran, you know, always thank him or her for their service and acknowledge that our freedom is bought by their efforts, right? And for everyone we see, there are a lot that we don't see anymore. So I thought it was great last night at the State of the Union that President Trump honored 2 of those World War II veterans and gave them medals. And it was just awesome that he lifted them up, you know, into the limelight and made them visible, you know. And when you do something like that, it inspires other people to want to do better, you know, because it's based upon merit, not on anything else, just on their merit, you know. And everybody he lifted up last night was based on merit. But I feel regarding the police, especially the police, because they're in charge of protecting us at home, and fire too, but police, the disrespect displayed for federal law officers and police, it's very disturbing to me how these people have done this. You know, we've seen all the images on TV and the influence that politicians have had on them doing that. And what motivates them to do that other than, I can't find a logical or sane reason. It's just, there's no logic or sanity behind it. But it's disturbing. You know, I'm from New York originally, and New York City police, you know, you had the fear of God. I mean, if they were talking to you, yes, sir, you know. But, you know, what that scene where they were like throwing snow at them and attack, and then their mayor says, well, it looked like a snowball fight to me. And, you know,
he told them to do it.
Of course. So it gives me a lack of confidence in the safety that I feel in America when I see that. When I hear you speak about, you know, strengthening those agencies, it gives me more confidence. And I think last night I felt so confident, and it felt good because for a very long time, for years, I didn't feel confident when I heard people speak on a federal level, even on a state level. And, you know, having the SAFE Act, you know, your Arizona card, which I just learned about, is a brilliant idea, really great. And then, of course, that's all going to be digitally fingerprinted, so to speak.
Correct.
You know, imaged.
With fingerprints, absolutely.
Right. So it makes me feel confident, you know, and I want to feel confident. So this isn't really, we're not talking about politics here. We're talking about living life in America and living life in Phoenix or Arizona. And so I'm grateful for these ideas, and I stand behind them 100%.
Well, thank you.
Really do.
I have 28 more.
Is that all?
Bring them on.
How much time do we have?
Yes.
Well, we'll do another show next week. Yeah.
Exactly.
So many subjects to cover.
I know.
So many. Yeah, so many. And thank you for being here tonight. Your input is really amazing, and I appreciate that. We're going to straighten out the healthcare system right here.
There you go.
Right now.
That's right. It needs a lot of help.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
not as healthy as it could be.
Well, you know, with that being said, Arizona needs jobs. We need jobs, and we need good paying jobs. And I have a plan for jobs, job growth, and business relocation here to Arizona. I've met with a number of CEOs, major corporations, that want to relocate here to Arizona and bring jobs, good paying jobs, to the tune of maybe 50,000 jobs. And that consists of pharmaceutical, automobile, even athletic centers. want to move out here. I mean, we have incredible weather, right?
Mhm.
So why not be in Arizona? In addition to that, that's going to really magnify business here, restaurants to give them more business,
Mm-hmm.
hotels
Yep.
give them more business. All these things just add up to where my plan in the first year is to decrease property taxes 50%.
Mm.
The second year, I want to do away with the property taxes. That's incentive. That's incentive and giving back to our people. So, with business growth, as you mentioned, we could dive into that. If you want to say something about that, that'd be great.
I mean, with all these development projects that are going in, like the TSMC, and I mean, there's one like where the old Cracker Jacks, like there's all these big, projects that are coming in. I know that some people have been concerned about the water supply. Well, how much of that is just hype, like coming from certain media or whatever, versus the energy, like the energy that we really have?
You're reading my mind, which scares me. Right
Okay.
Now, okay. We have a water crisis here in Arizona,
Okay.
and we have a specific plan to never be out of a water condition.
Okay.
Okay. It's included in my plan with reservoirs being at top level, storing that water,
Okay.
purifying that water. So there's a lot of different elements to it, but it's a great plan. It hasn't been presented. The people we have presented it to, scientists, engineers, they're very much anxious to get it going.
Okay.
Again, when I'm governor, day one, we're going to rock and roll. Okay. So you'll see more of that. Water crisis, big topic. We'll have it on the next time you come on, Gary. We're going to talk about water crisis.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a major concern. And coming from a state like I grew up in California,
Oh yeah.
and you too, it was a great state when I grew up, and it's not so great anymore. Unfortunately, they've taken the most beautiful state, arguably in the country, and anywhere even in the world, with its diverse climates and topography and everything else, and turn it into something it shouldn't be. And we don't want that to happen here. And these are all concerns. And I grew up in the Central Valley, where water was always an issue with the farming community in the Central Valley of California, which stretches from Sacramento south all the way down past Bakersfield. And California never built enough reservoirs. They let runoff from the snowpack in the Sierras run off into the ocean. They still do it today.
Yeah.
There was always issues over the Delta smelt and, protecting that instead of taking care of the farming community, which feeds the world, feeds this country and the world. And then just look at the disaster last year in LA with the fires and the unpreparedness of that whole scenario. It's just so much mismanagement and just fraud, waste, and abuse. There it is right there again.
Coming back.
And it's just because of a lack of common sense, a lack of reality, and just payouts and who knows what, And it's like, this is why we need business people to step into roles like you want to take on as governor. And I'm just so excited to have met you recently. And I am so impressed with your ideas and what you want to do. And this is the kind of direction, that this country took with Trump in 16. Somebody outside the box and outside the normal political world shook up everybody and everything, right?
Right.
And now we're seeing in other places like the Senate race with Dave McCormick winning. It took him a little while to get there, but he did. And it's the same concept, and that's what we need to see both here in our state, but also on up to the national level.
I could not agree more, and we're certainly going to have more discussion on that. That's a great topic, by the way, and it's one of my favorites to talk about.
Can I just add something? What you just mentioned is the very example of how important a governor is to a state, because mud runs downhill, and it does. And at the top level, on the state level, the governor of any state is so important.
Yeah.
And, that's why I'm here, is to support Ken Miceli. And because I believe in you and I believe what you want to do here and will do here is, I think when we first spoke on the phone, I said, you're going to make Arizona all that it could be. And I really feel that way, But fixing the problems is what this should be about, and that's what this is about.
It's absolutely right.
And so I applaud you and your ideas
Thank you, John.
and
you.
in moving forward on this.
Well, hopefully everyone out here will applaud me as well.
Yeah.
In addition, this is a campaign. We would love to have your donation, whether it be $5 or $10 or whatever you can. We look forward to having you here at the table with these fine panelists every week. It's Wednesdays at 8 p.m. So with that being said, we're just about out of time.
Aw,
It has been
so
a
much
pleasure
fun.
to have all of you here.
Yeah.
Gary,
It's
John,
our honor and
Daryl,
pleasure to be here
Yeah.
with
Thank
you,
you
Ken.
very
Gabby,
much. Yes.
great input.
Appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. So, again, have a wonderful evening. Good night, and we'll see you
Good
next
night.
week.
Thank you.